Welcome to the next session of the Cloud Exchange. My guest today is Rob Carey, the president of Cloudera Government Solutions. Rob, welcome to the discussion. It's always great to have you on.
Thanks, Jason. Good to be here.
As we continue our conversation today around the cloud, we move into the world of hybrid cloud and the importance of managing and securing your data. As agencies continue to move between on-premise data centers and cloud service providers, they must figure out the best ways to manage their data and applications. So Rob, we're going to start there. We know hybrid cloud is a given. We know hybrid cloud exists in almost every agency, if not every agency. So let's talk about how to find that optimization, how to find mission success in this ever-changing federal technology landscape.
So Jason, it's a great question. It's a great set of assumptions because it's real. This is where we are today. We started the cloud journey 12 years ago, and we are partly there. There's now private cloud, public cloud, and you have your legacy data centers where your information rests across the three. So now how do you manage that? That's the big question. And so the first thing is, where is your data? Who's accessing it? What applications are using it and creating new data? And so how do I then command and control that? My DoD term, sorry. But at the end of the day, the idea is think through this data strategy. How does it support your mission? Where are the applications that are mission critical? And then do you understand that? Have you enabled the right people to have access? Have you discounted access to people who may not need it? Because as we've learned over the years, security across this hybrid environment is absolutely crucial. So really the way to get your mission accomplished is just to stop and think about this, develop the plan, and move forward.
Sounds to me like a lot of times agencies know what's happening on their own network, who's accessing it, where the data is, but when it goes to the cloud, that's where the complications arise. When you talk to your government customers, do they know that intersection, that interchangeability between their infrastructure?
I think they do. They understand everybody has PIVs or CACs, so that's an access tool to the network. The fine-grained identity and access management mechanisms are where you have to be careful here, because you do need to link access to data and applications as opposed to, hey, I'm on the network, right? And once I'm on the network, I can do whatever I want. So to me, the investments that are made in the fine-tuning of who gets to do what is a really important feature of your overall network strategy that supports your mission.
It's great that you bring up the whole identity and access management. I know that's a kind of a separate path we could go down and spend lots of time on, but I was listening to something just recently, an event where they talked about we're much more of a data-centric environment and we're securing and dealing with infrastructure from a system-centric approach. Is that the biggest change that you think it kind of has to be made, that instead of focusing on the system itself, which is on-premise, off-premise, wherever, but really where's my data and how do I secure my data? And if it's in this cloud, it has to secure one way. If it's on-premise, maybe it has to be secured in a little bit different way.
To a large extent, that's true, Jason. But at the end of the day, the actual rules of protecting classifications of data remain fairly unchanged for the last 20 years. But to your point, the knowledge of where is it and who has access to it have really not changed, but have been afforded tools that actually bring about those outcomes. So that's what's really the change in the last couple of years. But it does require investment. It does require thinking about who is going to be afforded that access. We've talked about identity and access management, IDAM or ICAM, identity and credential access management, for a long time. But the tools are now here to afford that access at a finer grain level, which is really important because it is all about the data, stupid, as we've been saying for many years. If you can protect that, the outer shell, the network itself, the perimeter, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but you understand you're now managing the IoT of the network edge, the devices, and that's where all the main entries come in. So if you can protect that and you can protect what's on the soft inside, the data, I think you'll be in a good place.
Let me take us back around to the hybrid cloud discussion that we maybe began with. That's one of the concerns that you end up with these silos, this idea that, well, this data, this application's over here, and this data and this application's over there, and the two have to interact some way, but maybe they don't interact as well as they could. Is that one of those perceived downfalls of hybrid cloud, that well, I can't make them work better together?
It is. The silos, the silos of excellence, we used to call them, afford you a little bit of a benefit because all your eggs aren't in one basket. but now it requires modern command and control tools. How do I lay a layer of security across all those disparate environments and then look at it through a single pane of glass? So someone in the SOC can say, hey, I see Cloud X, Cloud Y, I see our legacy data center, and I've given it the same view, and I have the same confidence in protecting it and affording that access as I would if I was just looking at one of the three. So the silos are able to be managed into a coherency, which is really nice today. And actually, there are many tools out there, including ours, that can help do that.
We hear this term single pane of glass quite often. Where do you get the sense that your government customers or agencies more generally are in moving that direction to manage this multi-cloud, multi-infrastructure setup?
I think they all know that that's the right thing, that when you walk into the SOC and you see someone actually afforded the knowledge of in real time of what's going on in the network, and to be able to see what's going on with data and applications and or something that you don't understand, and you can make a decision with it. I mean, the SOC is all about rendering a decision from the data that's been provided to the tools that you have. So to me, I think they understand that. Whether they have been afforded the investment dollars to get there is a different story, because typically each CISO inherits what his predecessor left him. And then you get some incremental improvements. So I would venture to say there's a wide disparity of single panes of glass across government right now.
As agencies start to kind of move more into the public cloud or to a public-private cloud perspective, do you get a sense that they're seeing this opportunity of hybrid in a different way? Is it coming to them in the sense of like, oh, here's all the things we can do if we take more advantage of this hybrid cloud setup?
I think they understand that, for a long time it was cloud first, cloud all the way, cloud everything. But now you realize there are certain conditions of an application and data that are mission critical that you might want to put there. You're going to scale it, you're going to go up and down, you're going to cycle. There are conditions that make cloud computing beneficial to you writ large. And so once you understand, again, your mission, your applications and data that supports that mission, you can then figure out how much of my mission should go into clouds. And I have talked to a couple agencies in the last couple of weeks who talked about mainframes and COBOL, which was really scary even when I was a CIO that I was listening to that, but now it's more scary. But that's the reality of where they are. So you can imagine that they just don't have the money yet to put everything in one basket or another. So they get themselves there based upon mission criticality of apps and data.
Well, and that's what we saw with the Technology Modernization Fund as a perfect example. Not only did they get something like 108 projects, but over $2 billion in requested funds. And we know that TMF only was $1 billion. And I think for that reason, because they don't have the money.
That's right.
So Rob, you were a CIO. What did you do when you didn't have the money? How do you overcome that? There are ways. It's not just, you can't throw your hands up, right?
Well, you can't throw your hands up, but not in public.
Not in public.
But you can. But at the end of the day, you have to prioritize where you're going to put your money. Yep. I typically could come up with a budget that was about 35% more than what I was going to get. And I would have justified ROIs for my investments. So if my unfunded requirements, the UFRs, were placed in front of somebody who was going to grant me a few bucks, you could then justify what the organization would get, what would the Department of the Navy get for it. So that's really the only way I know to do it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of CIOs are starting to go down the path of understanding, okay, and then OMB's been pushing them on these high priority systems, high value assets, and then getting those modernized first and maybe kind of working backwards.
Correct.
I'm not sure as many as saw that. When we talk about high value assets, we have to talk security at the same time, because I think the security piece cannot be overshadowed. Is the hybrid cloud, does that setup provide any different or new security challenges, or generally speaking, security?
It provides another horizontal layer of complexity that you have and again, back to, do your tools provide you a view of the hybrid environment such that you can make decisions in the SOC in near real time, yes or no? If the answer is yes, it's not that big of a deal. And there are tools out there that help you do that. So you also think about the best practices of zero trust architectures, if you will, the least privilege, things like that you should do anyway, right? So this actually minimizes facets of the threat to start with, and now you're really worried about, can I now command and control or oversee what's going on in some disparate places? So I think today's tools have caught up with the reality of the hybrid computing environment. It's a little more complex to do that. It's obviously easier to have it all in one place, but at the same time, you are where you are.
I think the point you make there is really key. The tools have caught up with this hybrid world because, as you said, you can see what's going on across multiple clouds. And I think when we started this 10, 11, 12 years ago, it was, wait a minute, what's happening in this cloud? What's happening in that cloud?
Right.
How do I govern that? How do I manage that? I think agencies are much better about managing it.
Right.
Rob, we're just about out of time. Before I let you go, what's the big takeaway from our conversation when you talk, again, to your clients, when Cloudera meets with federal agency CIOs and others, what's the message you want to make sure that they understand about what not only you do, but the hybrid cloud setup in more specifically?
Yeah, so the message is, obviously think through your mission and how the mission is carried by the network, how the network is supported by data and applications, right? And then where are those things? So, and who's accessing them? That element of view takes a long time to understand because every agency, however small, is probably fairly complex. And they've had computer networks for 35 years, if not more. So to understand that and be able to push yourself into the future with a coherent plan, I'm going to do this in the first FY, this in the second FY, this in the third, and then wrap a security layer around a mission essential environment is the right thing to do. But you have to create a data strategy, have a data architecture. You need to understand your applications, and then look at your investment profile and see where you can go with it.
Sometimes it's easier said than done, isn't it?
Very much so.
Sometimes. Well, Rob, I always appreciate your time. Unfortunately, we are out of time for our session here at the Cloud Exchange. So let me thank my guest. Rob Carey is the president of Cloudera Government Solutions. Rob, always a pleasure.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
I'm Jason Miller, and you've been listening to Federal News Network. Now let me send you back to the studio for more from the Cloud Exchange.